of the I'm Ian Oliver. I'm chairman of the SERC Training Subcommittee. It's my pleasure to welcome you to what I hope you'll find to be an informative and enjoyable evening as part of this winter programme we've put together. This evening's session really is aimed at new branch committee members, those who may be lucky enough to have some ladies speaking this evening who've got a wealth of experience in the various committee roles between them. Now, ideally, we like these sessions to be as informal and interactive as possible, with questions being asked as we go along in either of two ways, either through the chat option or by the raising of hands. And I think we'll put everybody on mute to avoid too many people talking at once. But if you raise your hand for a question, please remember to take yourself off mute while you ask it. Okay, that's enough from me, I think. Over to our first speaker, Penny Hudson, who's going to go through the roles of chair and vice chair for us. Penny?
Hi, everybody. I've been a chair at Dumfries Branch for the last 3 years. I have just stepped down. I've also been on the committee for nearly 10 years and done various roles during that time. As chair, it's your role really to guide and support the committee and the branch. The main tasks are to basically make sure that everything does run smoothly, to ensure that we have regular committee meetings and arrange them. Usually the secretary will help with the agendas and everything like that, which is great. We need to make sure that any branch business is addressed, and basically keep everybody happy. Committee meetings should be held regularly. At Dumfries, we try to meet up in person, but we also run them online as well, or we do a mixture of the two. We find that works good. But obviously we need to have at least 5 members present to have quorum if we need to vote on anything. We have our meetings about every 8 to 10 weeks, but in the meantime, if there's any other issues, we use email and WhatsApp groups for anything else that we need to have a wee chat on. It works well for our branch because we're a very widely spread branch with people, from, it could be 2 hours travel to get to a meeting. So it works well for us. The chair's job is also to make sure that the committee work within the guidelines of the club and, just adhere to any of those. It's also important to make sure that information is passed both up and down the line. So whether it be back up to CMC, or out to, at branch level, then again, it's the chair's job to make sure that the information is there and that people understand everything. Sometimes CMC need discussions and feedback and everything. So again, it's the chair's job to make sure that that is discussed in full and the information is also passed back up the line again. Our secretary usually prepares the agenda for each meeting and then passes it all to the rest of the committee. Things that we would usually have on our meeting on the agenda are the approval of the minutes for the last meeting, any matters arising from these. We then have brief reports from our treasurer, our membership secretary, our archivist. Usually it's just towards the end of the year we hear from her. The newsletter editor, the RIDE coordinator, any reports from CMC, champs or international reps, and any other reports that we might need to discuss. We also like to discuss the RIDE debriefs at all the events that we've had since the last meeting, any suggestions from the Chief Steward's reports, and also from the rider helper feedback that we get. This gives us a good idea of any improvements that we can make at rides. We also like to review the risk assessments. These are now much easier this year, I must admit, with the template that we've been given. We then need to discuss future rides. It's a good idea to put a good variety of rides on, and it's always good to get new rides on the calendar. However, this isn't always possible, and it is quite a struggle, as I'm sure everybody will agree, to get new ride organisers on board. So again, as chair, vice chair, part of all of the committee, we're here to support everybody and give them as much encouragement as we can in order to get new rides into the branch. It's really important as well to liaise with other branches to make sure that we haven't got any clashes, so that we haven't got a Glasgow and a Dumfries ride on the same day, because it means that we all lose out. So happy to discuss those. We try to allocate a ride coordinator as well, just to help the ride organisers. Again, somebody that's new in the committee, it's a good idea to give them this role if they're working with an experienced ride organiser. But if you've got an inexperienced ride organiser, it's better to have somebody that kind of knows the ropes. So it depends on the ride as to who we actually do with that. The other thing that we need to do as chair or vice chair is make sure that everything is ready for any of the rides. So this includes making sure that we've got vets booked in advance, farriers booked, rainets for any of those branches that use it, portaloos, marquees, anything like that for the bigger 2-day rides. It's also really important as chair to make sure that you thank the people that have actually put the rides on. You know, a well-placed manners go a long way to encouraging people. We also need to write branch reports for the CMC meetings, so that's usually a week or so beforehand, and that's just on the forum, which makes it nice and easy. Final job of the year for the chair is to organise the branch AGM. The committee usually have quite an in-depth discussion pre-Christmas and everything, getting ready with the venue and organising food and everything, and our archivist works out all of our results and orders rosettes for the actual day. On the actual day of the AGM, the chair makes a speech and usually discusses how the last season has gone, and then presents all the prizes to the members. I think it's really important to make sure, and I like to do it at the AGM, to make sure that you do thank all the committee members, because we do give up our time free. We are all volunteers, and it's really important to just be polite. So the role of chair does sound quite involved, but everybody on the committee does pull together. We all have our own little jobs and we all help each other, you know, so it's not the scary role that everybody thinks it is. You just have to be confident and be prepared to lead people, and also to delegate, which I'm not actually very good at. So just support and encourage and be there to listen and pass on information. So that's the role of vice chair and chair. Thanks for listening. Any questions?
Any questions of Penny? Thank you very much, Penny.
Thank you.
Any questions? Okay, well, we'll try and have a bit of a question and answer session at the end as well, if anybody has anything that they think of, or just go on with the chat as you go along. Okay. It's Penny. So we'll move on to membership secretary now, which is, secretary now, which is Sheila Ogilvie. If you could.
Hi there. Okay, I've been the secretary of Argyll branch for I think the last 2, if not 3 years, and I really feel as if I'm still learning. But I think that the role of secretary is really twofold, and I don't think either part is more important than the other. First of all, I think a huge part is to support the chair and the committee in communicating between the committee and between the committee and members. I think in life generally, most of the problems could be solved by better communication, and I don't think in a group or a committee things are any different. So supporting the chair and the committee with communication, but also communicating with the members, I think that's absolutely critical if the members are going to feel involved and will buy into really what the branch is trying to do. I guess a big part of what the secretary does is around the branch meetings, which, like Penny, we tend to have probably every 8 to 10 weeks. So the first thing that as secretary I would do is arrange either a venue if we're going to be meeting in person, or we may meet by Zoom, or between meetings we might have wee teleconferences or WhatsApp groups. So that's probably pretty easy to arrange. I can either arrange a Zoom or liaise with Lindsay to try and get a Zoom, which we can then go on for longer at the branch meetings through the SERC license. I think that's right, Lindsay, isn't it? Yeah. So having decided on the venue and the date of the meeting, in conjunction with our chair, who's currently Hazel McCorkadale, I would prepare the agenda with Hazel, and also adding on any items that members have asked to be raised at the meeting. I would then circulate that agenda prior to the meeting with previous minutes and any reports that we're going to need at the meeting. And I try and do this at least a week before the meeting. It doesn't always work, just life gets in the road sometimes, but I think it's really good to try and circulate the papers as early as you can, because everyone's busy, and to expect people to go through papers 24 hours before a meeting is just not reasonable. And the whole meeting actually runs much better if everyone has had time to read the minutes and the previous papers before the meeting. So I would try and do that. During the meeting itself, obviously minuting the meeting is really, I think, one of the most important functions of the secretary. When I was working and chairing meetings, we occasionally used to get asked at the very last minute to take notes while we were chairing, and I just don't think it's possible to chair a meeting properly if you're trying to take notes as well. Meetings only run well if they're well chaired, and the chair can only perform their function properly if they've got someone taking minutes, so as they're not having to take notes at the same time. So I think taking accurate minutes is really really important at the time. Following the meeting, one of the things we try and do is produce bullet points for the branch members, especially around any decisions we've made that require to be enacted urgently. And actually that's led to us developing a kind of separate way of communicating the minutes. What I've tried to do, what I felt as a member, was that very often we were seeing the minutes of branch meetings about 6 to 8 weeks maybe behind the meeting, and it kind of makes you feel a wee bit out of the loop if you're seeing minutes you know, maybe 6 weeks or 2 months after that meeting's actually taken place. And many of the things that have been talked about may well have been and gone by the time you see the minutes. So what we're trying to do at the moment is, following the meeting, I would type up the minutes in a readable format, because they're not usually readable by the time I leave the meeting. Type up the minutes in a readable format and circulate them to the people who were actually at the meeting for their initial approval. And that's really good to do quite near the meeting, so as people can actually remember what you've talked about. So I would do that, and having incorporated any comments from the people who were at the meeting, I then circulate to the wider branch membership as a draft minute, making really clear that they've not been formally approved at a full meeting. When I do that, I would also put a link to the minutes onto Clubhouse, onto the branch page, and I also put a highlight onto the Facebook group to let people know that they probably got an email in their spam, and if they can't find it, then they'll find the minutes, the draft minutes, on the Clubhouse page. And I just think that gives people a chance to see what their committee's talking about in kind of real time, because after all, the branch committee is there to support the branch members. It's not the other way around. So that's probably what takes up, I would say, the bulk of the secretary's role. It's not a really onerous role out with the actual meetings. Other things I might need to do are deal with correspondence, just really among the anything that comes into the chair or the treasurer, whether from out with SERC or it may come from Lindsay and CMC. We may get correspondence from members on a rare occasion, either by email or by telephone, and also to circulate the branch newsletter when that's done. So you can see that out with the actual meetings, it's not a hugely onerous role. but I think that the communication is really important. I think it's really important to the wider membership, and it's good if we can keep that as good as possible, really. So that's it. Make lists. That's the other thing I would say to any secretary. I'm a great list maker. And if you make a list, you know you haven't forgotten to tell somebody something, or do an email, or lists are a good thing for a secretary to have, I think. And happy to take any questions if anyone's got any.
Thank you very much, Sheila. That was really informative and good. Any questions at all? Well, we'll crack on and we'll maybe.
So, Jill Britain's got a question. You need to unmute yourself. That's it.
Yeah, I've done that. No, I was just going to say, Sheila, I think that really highlights how important it is to get information back out to branch members, whether they choose to ignore it, read it, or whatever they need to do. I think that is a really, really good point, and I think we'll maybe within Lothians try and sort of like encourage a bit more of that, so that we don't get the good old phrase of, oh, I didn't know that was happening.
Yeah.
So, and maybe just to also encourage people to feel involved, so that actually they say, actually, this is okay. This, you know, committee's not a big black box that we're all scared of. I could actually be part of this quite easily. So I think that was a really good point. Thanks for that.
Yeah. And wine. Every good secretary needs wine.
Yes. I'll join you.
Thanks, Jill.
No, thank you very much. I think the point about getting minutes out quickly is important as well, because while things are fresh in people's minds, that's really good. Okay, can we move on to Sheila Bruce now for Membership Secretary, please? You're on mute, Sheila.
Yes, hi, I haven't unmuted myself. I'm sorry. Okay, I'm here to talk about Membership Secretary. I've been a Membership Secretary on TASI committee for longer than I would care to remember, I think, and have seen a lot of changes with regards to being a Membership Secretary. And I think since Clubhouse was put in place, it's made life an awful lot easier, much easier, and less onerous for Membership Secretaries as well, with the way it's formatted. The Membership Secretary basically has to deal with new membership applications and renewals of membership. When on the branch committee pages that you have, you'll be able to see all the members that you have within your branch, and they'll be split into 3 categories normally, which are adult, junior, and non-riding members. And from here, you can actually use the message me facility to get in contact with any of those members if you like during the period.
Does everybody know where to find that information? Yeah, good.
Yeah, you know, you message me, you know, it's in your branch committee roles. You can go into the actual page to look at the members. Yeah, you're happy with that? Yeah. When a new member actually joins, you get an email through to you notifying that the new member has joined. On your committee, on the page, the members page that you've got, at the bottom of the name of the members, there's always a little notes, and those are telling you that an email has been sent to you to note that there is a new member that has applied to the branch. Once you've picked up that new member, and I have to suggest that you have to, for new members, it's fine. You'll get an email, from them saying you've got a new member. So you would then go into your branch members. But it's always good to go into your branch members, because you've got people that just renew as well. And so you can actually see who has renewed as well as the new members within that page. So once you get that notification and you go in, if you go down the list, because it will tell you of many new members that have come, there's a little like button on that particular one. So for instance, if I joined as a new member, Sheila Bruce, you would scroll down, you would see your name there, Sheila Bruce, and in it there's a little like button, a little heart of the like button. And if you just click on that option, that then lets people on Clubhouse and also your committee know that you've actioned that new member. And to action the new member is basically making contact with them. and just pointing them in the right direction for where the welcome pack is on the website, and just to check various details. What I would normally do as Tayside membership secretary is I would email them initially to say, thank you very much for joining the branch, great to have you on board, kind of thing. And that's, I will pop a note in the post to them, together with a white distance card, the cognitive dissonance card. You don't have to do that. And also the first aid card, you don't have to do that either, because they can actually download those from the main pages of Clubhouse. Having said that, I've got a stock of them, so I can just get rid of mine anyway, so I can just pump those off to them. And I think it's a nice thing to do as well, is to just have that, you know, one-to-one contact with them, not necessarily just through Clubhouse. So to do a nice little letter, just a formal little note, an informal little note, just saying hi, welcome, and enclosing the cognitive distance card and your medical card, and also the little medical card as well that you have that they need. So there's 3 things that you would actually enclose with that. And with the letter that I normally do, I would normally then point them in the right direction for Clubhouse and just give them a few pointers on where to find things. Just to say, you know, if you sign in, you can click on the various header tabs for rides and events and everything. And also for the members only tab, it gives you various information from the drop down list on that. If you've seen the members only tab of welcoming you to Scottish Endurance, so there's a wee bit there about joining the club. There's also videos on there that you can watch and that kind of thing, which is great. A little YouTube on the different aspects of endurance riding, classes that you can enter, and the levels and the gradings that you can get. So it gives you all that information as a member. Clubhouse also holds your personal profile as well. And I do remind members that once that personal profile is there, click on your name at the far right of the header, and there's a drop-down list there with various bits and pieces in it. But it also gives all your personal information. So if you were to change your address or your email address or your telephone number, just keep an eye on that and just make sure you're updating that all the time, because if we needed to get in contact with you, then we couldn't do that if you'd recently just changed your email address. So it's always good just to drop that note to them as well, and just say on this little note, just to say, you know, the branch just needs all that information and able to contact you, basically. I also advise the members that we, SERC Club, have a Facebook page, and each branch also within the club have their own Facebook pages as well that they can look at, and how they just send a request to Tayside branch just to join that Facebook page so that we can allow them to join it. And basically just so they've got all the information they need. And at the end of the day, as I just say, if you want any more information or you need any further assistance, then please get in contact with me, or either through Clubhouse website, or whichever way, an email, and just keep up to date. And if you need any information I can help you with, then I'll do that, you know, whatever information it is that you're requiring. But I think it's really important to keep your members informed all the time. We had a discussion recently at our AGM where, you know, we felt that that was really a good idea to do that. And I think picking up on that, then, you know, probably every sort of 2 or 3 months, just dropping a note from the membership secretary just to say, hope everything's okay with you. If you need any information about, you know, being a member, then please let me know, you know, just to check. And it's actually quite important in the first, second, third months of the year, January, February, March, because that's when members get their membership to renew. And basically, it's just a quick reminder to people to say, if you've had your membership reminder, please join. Or if you haven't, you know, if you haven't had a membership reminder, let me know, because then I'll make sure that you get one. So it's always good just to keep in contact with the members, and that's a good way to actually do it. And I also, on the letter that I normally send out, is just put, you know, just say, keep your eye on the events page as well on Clubhouse, because obviously on there's always training that we're doing and carrying out. And it also gives you information about the rides that Tayside has as well. And I just normally say our next ride coming up is such and such a ride. So if you need any information about that, just let me know. But I think it's the contact between branch committee and members that is the most important thing. And just as Sheila was saying with regards to being the secretary, the branch secretary, you know, keeping your members informed basically as much as we possibly can. And I think that's basically around and about it. There is, under the branch committee tools, if you haven't seen it already, on Clubhouse, it's under my role, and there's a drop down list under branch committee tools called my role, and that gives the role of membership secretary and all the other roles actually that you can just have a quick look at, and it also just gives you bullet points on what the best thing is to do. But for your branch, basically, you'll do what you feel is best for your branch, and probably make up your own little welcome letters and that kind of thing, which I think is always very nice to be that a bit more personal. I think I've covered everything really with that. As I say, it's not as onerous as it used to be, but I think when members just get a renewal, if they're just renewing, they don't normally get that same information that a new member would get. So I think it's nice every now and again just to contact all your members, just to make sure everybody is happy and they've got all the information that they need. And I think that's about it. I think I've covered everything. But does anybody have any questions on that at all? Or where to go on Clubhouse, where to find things?
Can I just ask, is it only the membership secretary that can see last year's members? Because I've just looked on my phone and I can see Glasgow members, but I can't see last year's members. Is it just membership secretary that can see that then?
If you want to see last year's members, then we can add that view in. It's not, there's a mailing list that whoever you've asked to have permission to access the mailing list. There is a mailing list for each branch for last year's members who have not renewed, but there isn't the sort of visual as there are for adult and junior and non-riding. But we could add that if you wanted.
I was just asking the question. I was wondering whether, because I don't think as a Glasgow branch we don't do it anywhere. I don't think membership secretary really, we don't do anything like that. So, and I thought that was a great idea, but we would need access to the last year's members. But I wonder whether Gemma's the membership secretary, and that's without wine. And so, and I wondered whether she had that. That's all I was asking for.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea, and I think it's a good thing actually, because when I'm membership secretary in January, February time, I would also send an email out via Clubhouse to our current members and also to our past members for the year gone by, to remind them, you know, kind of thing, you know, don't forget to renew this kind of thing, or even if you want to renew and you're finding you're having problems, then come back and let me know kind of thing, or I'll try and sort it for you if I can. So I think it is good to have access to those past non-members. Yeah, those past members. Yeah, yeah.
I think that's a good idea too, Sheila. It would be a good resource to have.
Yeah, it is, and it's also, I think it's also nice sometimes, you know, it sounds really, but to find out why members haven't joined again. Yeah. You know, kind of thing. You know, if you're sending out an email, you're just saying, please join again. If you haven't joined, is there any particular reason why you've not joined? You know, have a chat, let me know, you know, that kind of thing, and just see if you can make that communication with them, because it might just be a simple thing or a silly thing that's why they've not joined again, but they maybe don't feel that they could join again, but actually you can, you know, we'll have you back anytime. Yeah, but it's a good thing to have. Yeah.
And I mean that's available to whoever you guys have asked to be able to email your members, then they have access to that mailing list. But as Donna says, then Donna Hampton's posted up there, we sometimes need to cross-reference who is a member at the minute and who isn't. I find it quite difficult to pull out those that have not rejoined, because the only option that we've got is, you know, are they current or not? So look at that a bit more in depth and see if we can pull that out a bit easier.
I think the only way you could do that obviously is to look at your current members within your branch committee section that you've got and see who's on there, and it's a bit probably a bit of an ask, but you could look at your existing members and fish. Well, yeah, you can't really do that, actually. I'm just going to say that. No, you can't do that because you don't get the individual names up there. You'll just get the past members. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it would be a good idea to have that. Yeah, so you know which ones haven't joined and which have joined already, kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, but you could still have the list on one screen and, you know, the list of last year's members on one screen and looking at the current members on another screen. And
yeah.
It's
So
an
that
alphabetic order, so it's easy enough to do.
Yeah, it's not that easy if it can be, if it can be done a different way. Yeah.
That's great. Thank you very much, Sheila.
Okay.
Any final questions of Sheila before we move on? I should have said right at the start that there's no real one-size-fits-all blueprint for all of these roles that fits every branch. Really what we're trying to do is just come up with ideas of how it's done in the particular branch in question, and, you know, stimulate some ideas in people's minds, really.
Sharing good practice. Linda's saying that and didn't appear to do that in Grampian, but I think that it's important. So, I guess it would be, you know, when somebody joins, then from the club, they get a welcome email, and that points them to the video that Sheila was talking about, and it reminds them to upload their horse details and their flu back stuff. And then, as Sheila has already described, we expect the branches to take it on from there.
That's great. Okay, thank you. So we'll move on to one that's close to my own heart, having just taken over the role of treasurer at Dumfries, and that's the role of treasurer. So I think Connie Anderson's kindly agreed to go through that for us. Connie?
Yeah. Yes, treasurer. The way I look at it, you are responsible for all the monies both coming in and out of the branch, making payments to people. I would have given you a laptop, Fiona. I think sometimes treasurers feel that the money belongs to them and not to the branch. I use spreadsheets. I find that they really help me. You can see everything in the one line. If you're asked a question, all the information is there. It works for me, it might not work for other people, I'm not awful sure. Yeah, I sent some spreadsheets to Lindsay just so that we could have a kind of look at how we do them. That one there is actually, when we have our branch meetings, I used to prepare a breakdown of all the ins and outs that had gone through that month since the last committee meeting. It also gives you a chance to balance the accounts, etc. Make sure that you're balanced with the bank statement, and it also lets the rest of the committee see what's come in and what's come out. I feel it's very important for it to be transparent, that everybody can see where every piece of money is going backwards and forwards. What else did we have, Lindsay, on that? I think there was the spreadsheets.
A rights tab?
That was the one, yeah. I usually use, that one is for rights. I broke it down into tasters, pleasures, day members, competitive grading fees, etc. Oh, excuse me, which made it easier at the end of the year for doing your accounts. They're all there. The expenditure, you've got your vets, your farriers. We only use really but one she's miscellaneous rides, blues, etc., etc. Which gives you your total expenditure at the end of the ride, and then you can have your profit and loss for the ride. I'd never included the rosettes. I felt that was a branch expense, not necessarily a ride expense, but that's somebody else might do it a different way. That's how it worked for me. Where am I?
We've got separate ones for income and expenditure.
Yeah, separate income and expenditure. It just works its way along. They're really self-explanatory, and I'm sure you all know your way around a spreadsheet. If we come to the main income, really is rides. That's where your income comes from. There's other income comes maybe from merchandise and calendars and stuff like that, but your main income is your rides. Did you manage to pull off a ride?
Yeah, I thought, I just need to change the screen now, Connie, and then we'll get that. I thought we'd just use one that's live, actually. So you can just talk it through, and I'll go to the pages that you want me to go to.
Okay.
I'll just use Whiteley. I know it's not happened yet, but it's still useful to.
Yeah. Coming up to rides, I would usually keep an eye on the ride itself. Being the treasurer, you can see more than the ordinary members can. You can see who's paid, how they've paid, if they're grading, etc. And I would keep an eye on that. Just one, I'm nosy, and two, sometimes you might get a member out with your branch paying by tokens, and that they really shouldn't pay with tokens if they're outside the branch, because that it affects your money. So you could maybe ask the ride secretary to get in touch with them and say that they've paid by tokens, and can they exchange it and pay it by cash, or you can get in touch with them yourself. Where was I going with that? Also, if there's just keep an eye on at the end of the like Sunday night, I would maybe have a look at it, or Monday sometime after the ride's gone through. If there is something at the top that says a refund is pending, don't do your return for your claim that day. Let it wait until maybe the next day till the refund's been done. Because if you put in the claim, it means that your ride secretary can't refund that person because the claim has gone in, and you have to just go and ask Constance or Lindsay or something, and it's much easier to wait until it's all been done. Right, we've got a ride Whiteley. For the treasurer, you go right down to the very bottom of the page, the very end, and you can see view export attendees, which is at the bottom there. You would click on that, which takes you to another page. So it's showing you, it gives you a nice line as to what people are doing. If you go to the very bottom of that page as well, where's it gone, Lindsay? Or is it at the top?
Now you need to go at the top here and select the view. For your income, is that what you're looking for?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's for doing the claim.
Yeah, you need to go to this bit here and select ride income. You may well have had it set as a default for you, or a favorite.
Possibly.
Yeah. And then you go to the bottom.
You go down to the bottom. There you can see that they've had Whiteley's, they've got somebody paying by tokens, so it'd be £24 with tokens, and £7.67 by PayPal. You would go and make a claim for that. That's your ride income. So you would have to claim that back from Club and PayPal. So that you would go into.
Yeah,
I can't see that.
Yeah, I'll get it for you. What you maybe want to do before you did that would be to count the day members. Would that be right, Connie?
Yeah, I would probably print that out so that I can see it better. I like bits of paper. I'm like Sheila, I like this. Right. I like a bit of paper. and you would be able to see who were day members and who weren't.
Yeah, but you certainly need to be able to know how many day members you've got.
You need to know how many day members, because it's quite important for your claim.
Right. So then you go to.
Oh, I see there is. See, that's different to what it was the last time I looked at it, Lindsay. It was all down the bottom. Yes, then you would go up to their your quick access area. And come right down to the finance, click on finance.
And then click there.
You would click there, which takes you to your claim page for the PayPal. It's quite self-explanatory. You go into your branch, it's a drop down, and the name of your ride, the date. So you would the date, and you would come down to whatever it is. Your total ride income would be the monies paid to PayPal, not including your tokens. You cannot claim for tokens. So that actually works out for you, your central funds, your levy deduction that would come off. If you have day members, non-members, we'd say there was 10. We'd just go for 10 there.
There was four.
Sorry, wait a minute. There wasn't 4. There was only 2, because 2 had withdrawn. So obviously, if they're withdrawn, we don't claim for them because there was no money received for the 2 of those.
Okay.
Yeah, but the view takes out if there's not, sometimes they're withdrawn and they haven't been given a refund. So the view takes that into account.
Well, the screen you showed just now had 4 day members, 2 of which had not paid any money.
Don't complicate it, Constance.
No.
When they come to the real thing, it takes those out.
No, well, the real thing. All right. Do you think so?
Remember, this ride is not finished yet.
Yeah.
Well, okay, whatever you say, whatever. But when I go down and look at it, I have to see the ones that people have refunded.
Yeah, but that's the next. Once the ride's finished.
Once you get it, Constance. You have 4 members, which so would be £40 would go to Central. So the money that's claimed by the branch is £707.82. You would fill in your name of the person making the claim, your email, and submit it. That gives you a chance to print that claim once you put in once you submit it. And I would advise the Treasurer to print that off, because it gives you a record of what you've claimed. That goes off to Constance, and then Constance sends us back the money and it goes into the account.
That makes sense.
So it's really, I find the Treasurer's role fairly simple. I would have hated to have had Sheila's role of Secretary. I find
At least you said that, Connie.
the really good. I mean, the Treasurer with rides as well. If you can, Lothian's use. Brain's dead. Sorry. We are internet banking, so we get all the vets or something, their bank details, and I tried to pay them on the Sunday evening when I came home. I don't have banking on my phone because I lose my phone occasionally. So I would pay them on the Sunday evening, or certainly the Monday morning, because I feel they've done the work that they should be paid right away, and paid anyone that's needed. I used to get in touch with the ride organiser to see if they had any expenses outstanding, fuel for marking or gifts to landowners, anything like that. And again, they would be paid through BACS. I feel that it's the branch money, and if people have spent money, they're entitled to get it back as quickly as possible. Did I see something there about tokens? Did something come up on the screen?
Yes,
it was from me, Connie.
Is that the tokens? It
How
was
do you
Jill.
put tokens?
Tokens. Tokens are, I always show the tokens on the income because they come up on your income sheet. They aren't really money, but you have to show them in your expenditure because that's money's coming from the branch, because you're actually paying, branch is paying for that member to ride. So you're paying the £13 for a pleasure ride. So I showed it in the income to show again transparency that that's how it's being paid. And then I showed it also on the expenditure, which kind of balanced it out. It's difficult to kind of explain it. I know that's not sounding very good. One kind of balances out the other. If you have like £25 on the income and £25 in expenditure, it balances itself out because the only monies you're claiming for is actually cash from your PayPal. Does that make sense?
It's probably as well to show them on both, isn't it? I would think.
I feel it makes it again more transparent.
Janice, you have your hand up. Do you have a question, Janice Thompson? Hello?
Hello.
Janice? It's got bad connection by the looks of it. Okay. Is that it, Connie?
It is basically, yes.
Yeah, thank you very much indeed for that. That was really informative. Helps me a lot as well. I think talking about templates, that is pretty well exactly the way that Dumfries do it as well, because Rose Matthew, the previous treasurer, went through it all with me a couple of weeks ago. So yeah, that's good.
It makes life easier. You know, you can put comments at the side of an amount you've put in, and you can go back and look at it. I feel also that if something happens and you can't carry on doing the treasurer's role, someone else can pick it up. It's all there. You know, it's what's the word I'm looking for? No, it's gone in my head.
Is it visible? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much. Any other questions of Connie at all? Janice, you have a hand up on your screen. Is that intentional or not? You're on mute. No, I think it's by mistake.
Sorry, there's nothing visible at this end.
Okay, no problem. All right, moving on then. Can we talk about newsletter editor? I think Lindsay, you're going to talk about that too.
I thought Constance was going to do a bit to see what she does when she gets a claim.
Oh, sorry, right, okay.
I don't know.
Yeah, well, in terms of the club treasurer role, which is obviously slightly different to branch treasurer, because I'm sitting at the other end of it, I, like Connie, have spreadsheets for expenditure and income. And every time I get a cognito claim form in, because obviously all the money that comes in comes to me to start with, or not me personally, obviously, but comes into central, and then I have to pay it out to each branch. So all the cognito forms come to me, and then I check them, and then I pay them out. I'm not as quick as Connie is. I don't always do it on the Monday. I do it when I get round to it. And if I forget to do it, please just send another claim form, you know, or not, or text me to say, did you get the claim form? Because my inbox is quite massive, and quite often I see the cognito form, and if I'm not at a printer and I can't print it off, it disappears down the list, and then that's it, gone forever. you know, I never go back down, you know, 20 emails to find out if somebody claimed or not. I sometimes do check thinking, I did see one, but I've forgotten it. But just send an email and I will check and then pay it. My role is very similar to Connie's in the sense that I do a report to the Central Management Committee for their meetings and give them an idea of the membership and the income and any expenditure that might be unusual for the year or more than we might do, so that they can decide, you know, on the membership fees for the following, because they're always done a year in advance. So they need to know all the sort of basic insurance and magazines and subscription costs. They need to know what they are so they can work out what is realistic for the membership. I prepare an income and expenditure up to that date for every committee meeting, and give a report as to where I think we're at, and I usually do an analysis of the membership. So likewise, we can see, you know, if we're up or down from the previous year. But other than that, my role is very similar to Connie's in the sense that it's all done in spreadsheets, so that can all be handed over, you know, so I can square the bank and PayPal accounts and all those things. And if something happened to me, it could all just be handed over to somebody else.
Very good. Thank you very much, Constance.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Lindsay, newsletter.
Newsletter. I'm sure there's somebody more competent than I to talk about the newsletter. Sarah Perkins, you're on here. Would you talk about it? No?
Oh, I was struggling to unmute myself there, Lindsay, sorry.
No.
Well, I don't know. Totally unprepared.
You do it on a very regular basis, so you can do it much better than I, Sarah.
It was yeah, okay. I took over the newsletter for Lothians from Nancy Murdoch about 7 years ago. I really enjoy doing it. It's a lovely way of communicating with the rest of the branch. I suppose the main format of our newsletter is that we provide ride reports, list all the helpers who've helped at every ride, and thank everybody. Just do a very brief summary of the ride, detailing who's been the route organizer, who's been the chief steward, who the vets have been, whether we've had vet students helping out. And then we give a list of the results, although they've already been, they're available on Clubhouse, but we put them into the newsletter as well. And I try very, very hard to ask different people to contribute to the newsletter. So we're hearing from new members, we're hearing from people who've helped, we're hearing from people who do pleasure rides, people who do competitive rides, and people who are away doing exciting things like the Cairngorm 100, the Borders 50 ride, etc., just so that everybody is represented and that it's interesting. Try to include loads of photos because people don't want to just read words, they want photos, they want to be able to recognise different members of the branch. So it's nice to have pictures of new members and pictures of people who ride irregularly and people who ride regularly. It's also nice to have a little bit of other interest, so other people who are doing interesting things with their horses, people going on horse holidays either with their own horse or going abroad and riding somewhere nice like Spain or Portugal. Just all sorts of different things, really.
Okay, thank you. Any thoughts, any questions from anybody? Thank you very much, especially at short notice there, Sarah, so thanks. CMC reps. That one you, Lindsay.
Yeah,
Or you're going to delegate that one?
Probably get somebody else to do this one too. Who shall we pick on? Yeah, I'm sure you're all aware of the CMC reps. The reps are elected by your branch members. It is an agenda item on your annual general meetings. Frequently, it tends to be the chair and the vice chair, but it doesn't have to be. The members can elect whoever they wish into those roles. Obviously, need to be proposed and seconded. The branch can have two, which is good. Everybody picks up different things at meetings. The basic role is to be the go-between the branch committee members and the club management. Club management probably now meets maybe 6 times a year, I think, and all the meetings are on Zoom. We've not had a face-to-face since pre-COVID, but I think that everybody is supportive of the Zoom sessions because it doesn't take your whole day up. It's certainly, from Constance's point of view, it's much cheaper for the club. It's much more cost effective for the club to do them by Zoom. You know, the license costs something like, what was it, £140 a year, whereas if we're going to Perth, which was the kind of central place, we've got a venue to pay, we've got food to pay, branches have got expenses to pay to their reps. You know, the cost was quite great. Like what Sheila Ogilvie described, papers are prepared in advance, sent out. The reps, we try to get them out, you know, a good week ahead of the meetings, sooner if we can. It sometimes takes a wee bit longer to gather the information in because we're dependent on other people's time in sending in the reports. But when the reports and the agenda come out, then the branches should have scheduled a branch meeting in whichever format they wish to discuss the agenda items and to prepare and agree their branch response to the discussions. Whilst obviously the discussions that, like at any other meeting, can take a different turn, there are different viewpoints come in, and yes, I'm sure the reps may well change their tack, but the initial thing is that they should be reflecting the views of the branch committee and the branch members. If they're not, then that's fine, but they need to make it clear it's their personal views and not their views of the branch. Really important, it's the branch reps that make all the decisions for the club. They are the management team, and it's only the co-opted officials that carry out those instructions. And after each meeting, I would expect that they would report back to the committees. Like Sheila Ogilvie was saying, we try to produce the minutes as quickly as possible and send them round for any changes, any mistakes that have been made in the recording, and then they can go out to the branch committees and we put them up on the clubhouse so that the members can see them too. I think that probably covers it. It's very much a kind of the description is in the name, representing, and you're representing your branch at these meetings. And important that you bring forward the information and the views of your branches. I'm sure some of the reps that are in the meeting might want to add or change anything that I'm saying, put their own view in it. No, they're shaking their heads.
Quite a few of them as well, I think.
Is that better?
Sheila?
Right, can I ask something? Oh,
Yeah.
I think one of the things I find quite tricky, Lindsay, is having had the discussion with the branch committee, you think you've come to one view, but once you get to central and you hear everyone's point of view from all the branches, I have found myself in the position of changing my mind you know, once you get to know the bigger picture. So that's quite tricky. And I think you just have to be conscious of, are you putting forward your own view, as you say, or are you putting forward your branch committee's view? And occasionally I've had to go back to the branch committee and say, look, I know this is what we said, but here's the extra information. And we've come to a different conclusion. So I think it just highlights the importance of actually getting to the meetings and having the discussion and hearing everybody else's point of view, because it's easy to get kind of entrenched in your own branch, in your own wee group, without seeing the bigger picture. And each branch has got its own issues and challenges and problems. So I think it's, you know, we need to hear everybody's point of view.
Yeah. And I think too, it's important, you just touched on there, for branches to share the problems, because the discussion can very often come up with the solution or suggestions. Because if one branch has got a problem,
for sure,
you can guarantee that another branch has either got the same or have had the same, and you know, can offer a suggested solution.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much for that. Sheila Bruce, we're back to you for champs, I think, if that's all right.
Yeah, hi. Sorry, I'm not quite sure what I'm supposed to be really saying about it, but I've put a wee bit together just to say that the Championships is a subcommittee, and it's made up of representatives from each of the branch. So each of the branches, Dumfries, Highland, Lothian, Borders, Glasgow, Grampian, Argyll, have all got branch reps that actually, hopefully, sit on the subcommittee, the Championships subcommittee. And the idea with that is that any decisions or any things that's been discussed at the subcommittee can then be fed back to branch committees by those representatives, or can be, you know, they'll be giving the information and updating their branch committees on where we are with the championships. Basically, at the end of the day, the Championships is a club event, but we are very much answerable to the club and also to the branches as well. So it's really important that any decisions that are made or discussed at Championships subcommittee are taken back to your branches and discussed there as well. So it's important to have a rep from each of the branches throughout Scotland. Currently, I'm happy to say that the majority of branches we have, and the majority of people have stayed on from last year as well, which is lovely. Thank you very much for that too. I'm actually chair of the Championships myself, but also I'm the Tayside rep as well, kind of thing. And Lindsay is secretary for the Championships. The route organisers, we're at Long Newton again this year for the Championships. So the route organisers for the Long Newton event are Denise Murrow and Nikki Allen. There's a lot involved with putting on the routes and finding the routes, as we all know, with putting on our own rides within our branches. And sometimes we found it worked, or we have in the past found it work quite well to have a route subcommittee, because it's impossible just for two people to be able to put together what we need to put together for the Championships for a route kind of thing, and to recce everything that you need to do, and to remember everything that needs to be done as well. I mean, the subcommittee's there to help them as well as, but we found that it was quite a good idea to have a route subcommittee who would assist the route organisers in their task of what they have to do. And as I say, it has worked well in the past, and it's also good because, for instance, Long Newton being in the Borders, it's great being your branch rep on the subcommittee of the Championships if you're in Highland and Grampian and Dumfries, but you haven't got that access like people, you know, obviously if you're living within the Borders itself. So it's always good maybe to have another 3 or 4 people that you can sort of co-opt as a route subcommittee, so that there's about half a dozen of them all within the local area and everybody can help and assist. And that's possibly what we may do this year, but it will depend. But you know, it is a lot. Denise and Nikki have found it a lot as well. Our meetings for the championships are also held by Zoom, which again is fantastic because, as I say, if we've got branch reps from all over Scotland, then at least it's easy for everybody to attend those meetings. There are various jobs that are undertaken or need to be undertaken during the run-up for the championships. Some of them we've already started. We haven't had a meeting in November. All our plans for championships have to start much earlier in order to make headway and to book things. For instance, marquees and portaloos and things like that. If they're left to the last minute, we're never going to get any. So basically in November time is when we would start to look at that and to book those kind of larger items that we know other people for other events would be booking at the same time. So we make sure that we've got our orders in. So each of the reps on the subcommittee would be given various tasks to do. And then we'd all go away and beaver away and do what we can do. And then we'd come back and have our meetings and discuss it and say where we're up to date with, or failing that, we have a championships discussion page on Clubhouse, the committees and everything. So we can go in there and we can put on a chat on there and get replies back much quicker than having to wait for a Zoom. It works really well. The discussions work well. The Zoom works well. The only time you might decide you want a meeting physically is if it's a site meeting to discuss maybe the venue at the event where you're going, to make sure that if you've got to change things are in the right place, kind of thing. That's possibly the only reason you may want to have an actual physical meeting. But the subcommittee work well together. We all split the load, and there's a lot to do. So, you know, many hands make light work, basically. As I say, we are answerable to club and we do reports. I do a report every time there's a CMC meeting, just to make sure that the CMC is up to date with it, and that all the other branch reps that are at CMC are all involved with that, so that we know what we're up to date with and how it's going and how we're progressing with it. Again, there's I don't know if you have access on Clubhouse, but there's a members only section which gives, if you scroll down, it gives all the club officials and who does what within the club, not only for CMC and management and that kind of thing, but also for the championships and obviously for the things like the home international. So it tells you who's actually on that particular committee. So if you ever wanted to contact us or anything like that, then you can always contact us via Clubhouse through the club officials drop down list, and let us know if you've got anything that you would like us to do or you'd like us to look at. I think that's about it, really. If anybody's got any questions they'd like to ask with regards to the championship committee. No.
Thank you very much, Sheila.
Okay, thanks.
It's useful. Just conscious of time, moving on to basically the last couple, we've got ISC. Is that something you're going to talk about, Lindsay?
No, I think Fiona can talk about that.
Well, Fiona's the only one that's here, I think, who's on that committee. So you're on mute. You're on mute, Fiona.
Again, the ISC committee should have reps from each of the branches. These reps should actually be very active in going round their members in the branches, approaching them and asking them if they'd ever considered to be put forward for the team. I think people like to be asked rather than actually be put forward themselves, put themselves forward. It's often that hopefully that the ISC members are fairly experienced riders that are on the committee and therefore can maybe see potential and to try and encourage that potential to put their names forward. Again, we haven't had a meeting yet, but again, it is done by, I presume it's done by Zoom because I wasn't on it last year. I don't think, was I? Might have been. But we have Nancy as our chair, and she's very good at putting around any matters that are arising through Clubhouse and directly if need be. The ISC committee then get together when we have potential members put forward for teams, and the ISC committee then sit down and have a good discussion about who should go forward for teams. That is then handed over, the team is then handed over to the chef of the team, and then things go from there. It's often quite nice that we do have ISC members that come down to support the team in different places. Sometimes we have them down in Wales for the Red Dragon, other times we had them in Scotland, so it's really good that we have that backup from them as well. I'm not sure what else, because I didn't know I was doing this, so I haven't actually prepared anything. I think the most important thing is that the reps do go out in their branches and try and encourage people to put their names forward and be very encouraging, not just for that, but for also encouraging any rider to stretch themselves slightly and to go on. Hey, Jill. Yes, so yeah, there's potential in everyone, and I just feel that we should look to that and to encourage it. That's all I can say at the moment, I'm afraid. Is there any questions?
That's great, thank you. Any questions? Mary, who is going to talk to us about Archivist, and I thought I was going to give Mary the award for having the shortest notice of having to present this afternoon, because that's all the notice she got. But I think that award's got to go to both Sarah and Fiona now.
Thank you. Yes, it was slightly short notice, and apologies for lack of camera, folks, but I'm on mobile download and it could just drop out at any time. So my apologies if it does. The archivist role is one that I've done for Lothians for quite a number of years and thoroughly enjoy it, quite simply because I love numbers and data, and it just plays to my strengths. It's not a difficult role. And is great fun.
We're not hearing you too well, Mary, I don't think.
My role description that was mentioned.
I'm not hearing Mary at all.
Yeah, I think Mary's just
your connection.
just not.
So much tools on Clubhouse.
Mary, can you hear me? We're not hearing you at all, really. No, I think we've lost her altogether now.
I think we'll just need to mute Mary, and we can just very briefly cover what she was going to say. Obviously, because we've got the results going on the Clubhouse, it's the archivist role during the season is not very onerous, and Mary's actually dropped out now. It's not onerous, it's towards the end of the season when you start working out the results. So what we thought we would do a separate session towards the end of the season and go through how you use Clubhouse to bring out the data to do the awards. But during the season, the archivist should get the vet sheets from the ride as normal. And because the results should already be on Clubhouse, because we need them to be up there sharp in case people have got rest periods, they're not allowed to ride. If they've had a fail, then obviously they're on a compulsory rest period. So, and if they have achieved gradings that then reflect their entries for the next rides, that's why we need to get the entries up quick. So what we say to the archivist is, once you get the vet sheets, go onto Clubhouse and check the results, and just make sure that everything's correct as per the vet sheets. We generally find that members do that anyways, as soon as the results go up, and they will quickly shout if they think that the results are incorrect. But rather than just change them, we would then revert to the branch archivist and say, please, can you check the vet sheet before we make any changes? Because we know what happens in the flurry of the ride, things get misheard and misunderstood. So if you spot any errors in the front between the vet sheet and what's on Clubhouse, then just email the generic email and we can make the changes. Apart from that, there's really not a great deal. We do not recommend that you keep local records for data protection. There should be no need now to keep local records. Everything that you should be able to use, all the data is on Clubhouse now. It's not good practice to keep local records. So basically during the year, then the role is fairly straightforward, and we will have a more in-depth session for archivists towards the end of the year, so as that we can explain how to filter out the data for the various awards. Any questions on that?
No, that's super. Thank you very much. And so sorry, I don't think Mary's managed to rejoin us. So
no, she's not. Sorry
about that, the way it's all turned out. But thank you, Lindsay, for stepping in. Any final questions of anybody on this evening's sessions? No? Okay. Well, all that remains for me to do really is to thank all the people who presented tonight. Some of them at very short notice, and to thank you all for attending, and to thank you for your for going on to the committees. I heard a very impassioned speech by our previous treasurer at Dumfries last year's AGM, which was basically saying without committee members and without people standing forward for role, the whole thing just won't exist. And I think that's very, very valid. So thank you to everybody who's put their hand up and volunteered. All being well, our next session's in 2 weeks' time, which is Monday, the 27th of March. And it's about planning the season ahead and moving up through the distances. So I look forward to maybe seeing some of you then.